Hello and welcome to Breakfast Central. It's Wednesday morning. Trust you had a fantastic night rest and you're wide and awake and ready to hear and listen. Most importantly, to join us as we delve into the biggest stories, news and current affairs that will shape your future today and tomorrow. My name is Joe Hansen. Benga was good.
And I'm Benga Boro. Welcome to the midweek edition of Breakfast Central. Quite a lot of news coming out of the Federal Capital Territory. Trust us to bring you the latest updates from that and other big stories making the rounds around the country. I am Benga Aborowa. Welcome to the program.
And I am Olive in Olive. Thank you very much for joining us this morning on Breakfast Central. Benga, why do you have that shocked look on your face? I wondered when I saw you this morning, why wearing Anko? But then again,
great minds think alike. I'm not trying to say Joe is not great, but we're greater. He's great, but today we're greater.
Hey, my friend. You're welcome to Breakfast Central for the next 3 hours. Join us as we explore conversations about the latest trends and happenings in Nigeria's political space. And we're starting off with the National Assembly, but before then, we must remind you that your opinion counts and we want to hear your thoughts, read your thoughts on YouTube. We're streaming live, News Central TV live on YouTube, and we'll also take calls at some point during the show. But let's start what we have come here to do. How are you, gentlemen? How are you?
For me, before we go into this, I mean, I just want to use this medium. I mean, since I have this opportunity, and unlike many Nigerians don't, please, what is happening to the power holding company, NEPA? What is going on? Give us light now.
It's epileptic.
It's because you're not calling them the actual name, that's why.
Okay, NEPA.
No,
I've said
PHCN.
No, okay, PHCN. Yeah. Give us power now. Eh?
All power belongs to God, Joe.
Eh?
All power belongs to God.
Have you
give us electricity.
To this EKDC?
All
of them give us power.
Okay.
Give
so
us
there
light.
seems to be a huge challenge in that area with people complaining about power. And the unfortunate thing is that they don't have access to solar. So how many people can afford solar? How affordable is solar? If we're looking at...
I mean, we're making excuses for them. They need to give us light. Forget about solar. That's what we do. We have bad roads, you buy SUVs.
Unfortunately, that's our reality.
There's no pipe on water, you dig a borehole. You know, we're always making excuses, shifting goalposts, looking for the easier alternative out of our problems. Meanwhile, those who are in charge, we give them a get-out-of-jail-free card. It's very, very...
Is it not the same ministry who had 873 million or so, or billion, for the sector, and then all they released was just how much? 60 million naira.
No, they had 800 and something billion, and what was released was 60 million.
60 million naira.
Yeah.
60 million naira people used to organize weddings. It's not even enough to organize some weddings.
60 million weddings.
And have you noticed
in Nigeria, like real high-profile wedding. Well,
anyway,
let's get into the meat of today's conversation. It was a heated day at the National Assembly.
Actually, the fish, based on the Agungu Festival, the fish of the matter. I wonder if Mr. President has finished devouring that 32 kg fish that was presented to him.
Well, at the National Assembly, they are not devouring fish, but what it looks like is that they're devouring each other's. Both chambers descended into a very rowdy session over the controversial Electoral Act Amendment Bill. The House of Representatives was thrown into chaos during an emergency plenary convened to deliberate exclusively on electoral matters ahead of the 2027 general elections. The uproar began after Speaker Tajuddin Abbas read a motion to rescind the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, which had already been passed in December 2025. The motion, moved by Honorable Francis Wave, cited recommendations from a technical committee made up of leaders of both chambers, clerks, and legal drafting experts. But not all lawmakers agreed. Opposition members protested loudly, accusing the leadership of attempting to reverse hard-won reforms, particularly the clause mandating electronic transmission of election results. Now, this disagreement led to shouting matches, repeated voice notes, and even a walkout by some lawmakers. Similar tensions flared in the Senate as members debated whether the harmonized version of the bill should stand. Senators split sharply along party lines, with some insisting that the amendments were necessary to strengthen Nigeria's democracy, while others argued that rescinding the bill would undermine public trust in the electoral process. Let's take a look at this video.
and legal drafting experts from the Directorate of Legal Services
yesterday morning
of the National Assembly met to harmonize and address the identified anomalies, recognizes the imperative of ensuring electoral timeliness and statutory provisions, promote maximum participation, fairness, inclusivity, administrative efficiency, and public confidence in the electoral system, desirous of correcting the identified inconsistencies and unintended consequences through appropriate legislative action in order to safeguard the integrity of the electoral framework. The House resolves to rescind the decision on the Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2025 and commit the same to the Committee of the Whole for consideration. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Evan. Is the Chairman Committee on Electoral Matters around? Yes, Honorable.
I rise to second the motion ably moved by the Chairman Rules and Business to rescind the decision of the Electoral Act.
Aye. Those against you say nay. The ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, sir.
The bill is recommended to the Committee of the Whole.
Clause 1 to 10. Clause 11 to 20. No. Clause 21 to 30.
Carry. Point of order. Point of order. Point of order. Point of order. Point of order.
Clause 30 to 40.
Point of order. Mr. Chairman, you are not reading. We want to know. Point of order. Point of order, Mr. Chairman. You are not reading. Point of order. Point of order.
Yes.
Point of order. Point of order. Yes. No.
Clause 40 to 50.
You're supposed to read it. Line by line. Point of order.
Clause 50 to 60.
Point of order. Speaker, point of order.
In that clause 60, clause 61,
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
clause 60.
Start smoke. We're not going to go near. We're going to stay this out from them. You don't understand that. No. Take shot. Take me. No. The record.
They are tear-gassing us.
The record.
They are tear-gassing us. They are tear-gassing us.
Senator Abaribe is on a very important national assignment, and the social media is watching. So now, move your motion. Move your motion. Move your motion. Move your motion.
Mr. President,
he wants to move a motion for division. If he's not moving a motion for division, then go into
Mr.
the order,
President,
and I'll rule.
Order 72. 1. Any senator may challenge the opinion of the president by claiming a division. So I'm calling for a division.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Point of order by Senator Abaribe, calling for a division on the provision of yes. He's calling for a division on section 63, which gives the presiding officer. So if you are in support that the proviso, which enables the presiding officer to proceed to the next center for collation with the hard copy of the signed form EC8A, so that collation can continue. If you are in support that the word proviso remains to enable the presiding officer to do so after imputing all the items, can you rise and raise your hand so that the public can see you? Come and count. Come and.
It's very clear without ambiguity. And what they have done is to already they're basically preempting us for the fact that they are planning to do exactly the provisos that they have put to that clause. Is that what we should take? No!
Fuji House of Commotion is what it has become at the National Assembly. Young Nigerians and civil society members have been protesting against, the current situation of things regarding the Electoral Act amendment bill, and basically insisting that the phrase real time be inserted. But now we've seen that there is I wouldn't call it a misunderstanding, a disagreement between, the members, the lawmakers. You will see that there are different caucuses and factions within the assembly.
Both houses.
Both houses, exactly. One has agreed to one, another one has agreed to another, and they're wondering, okay, are we going to harmonize? Which one are we going ahead with? But we'll head to what Nigerians are saying in a moment. And just to mention that we also would like to hear what you're saying. So go on YouTube and type a comment in the chat box. New Central TV Live is where we're streaming live. Do you have anything you'd like to say, or do we go to...
I mean, this is our only wake-up conversation for today, and it's very important that we dissect it carefully. I'm just going to say this. I think we should track back to the House of Rep. In December 2025,
they had passed, there was no problem.
No problem. There was peace in the land. You had passed the mandatory transmission electronically of results. And all of a sudden, February, here you are. You come back and you rescind, and then all of a sudden you start having that conversation again. What shocks me the most? Yesterday was shocking. You had the Speaker of the House. I mean, we just saw that video. He made a statement, all in agreement, and so on and so on. And the nays were more.
They were louder.
Louder. But you hit the gun and said the ayes have it. This is not election. No. This is like home video playing before the eyes of every single Nigerian. And not just that, it seems like there was too much heat in the kitchen, and the Speaker couldn't handle it. So
he did what he wanted to.
He handed it over to the deputy.
Who gave you the right to override the decisions of the majority of what Nigerians want? Because the nays were louder.
And then you passed it over to the deputy. Now the deputy came, I must say this, the senator, the deputy speaker of the House of Rep, I have never seen this example before. You were going from page to page. You were counting from 1 to 10, 11 to 20, and your people were shouting, no, stop. They were moving a motion, stop.
calling for points of order.
Calling for point of order, point of order, point of order. You ignored them and you kept moving. You kept moving. You got to 60 and the voices increased. You moved to 61. You moved to 62. What is going on? Are we in a democracy or are we in some form of, is it a charade? What's playing out?
Yeah, these are very pertinent questions that are begging for answers. I mean, my concern is that on a matter as important as this, it's open to a voice vote. That's one concern.
Because we need to know who voted for
yeah,
what.
because I need to know. I'm not going to. I don't know the voice of my representative, and if people are shouting in their hundreds, if it's a chorus, I can't pick his voice out. So I need to know how he voted. Well, how will I know if his voice was part of the yay or the nays? That's number one. Number two, the senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, there are 109 of them. Only 70 of them showed up to such one of the most important pieces of legislation they will ever pass.
Where were the others?
In this 10th assembly. On assignment, maybe they traveled, they went for summer. Oh, sorry. They are not back from Christmas. They went for winter, or maybe they went for Winter Olympics in Rome to support the 2 Nigerians that are participating there. Things like that.
Look how empty the seats are.
How can 70 senators, something this important?
55-50.
Just to mention, now that you highlighted that, Minga, that Nigerians, we also have a responsibility. You will take notes. You will find out who your representatives are. If your representatives were around. You find out the people that you represented. See, we need to get to the point where, and I know that this happens in other climes, where people can send messages and emails and petitions and call their representatives to say, no, we don't approve of this.
You can do it here, but most of them have other numbers. They hardly pick the numbers that are made public, that are publicly available.
So the question is, how do we set up that system where representatives are truly representatives, where they understand that it's not about doing campaign during election and winning, but that you are answerable to the people that elected you.
You need to let the people understand that their lives matter in politics. They need to be invested. Ordinary Nigerians need to be invested in day-to-day politics.
Because the only
not invested a year before general elections and not just voting.
And
like
even
I always say,
what they're
it's
thinking
beyond
about,
voting.
I think that there's so much emphasis on presidents, governor, that they don't even realize the very
even the governors these days are getting a free pass.
That the lawmakers
everybody's on the president's vote.
Yeah, so like lawmakers are a very, very key part of policies that will be passed that will shape the quality of life that you live. Even these governor and presidents that you're elected into office, they will need to appear before lawmakers to defend their budgets. So we can't even take it with kids' gloves. So I think that there needs to be some sort of sensitization for citizens to see the importance of lawmakers. So you're not taking it with kids' gloves.
And also, I'm happy that our director is showing footage from outside the National Assembly. Look, Nigerians have a right to protest. The National Assembly, the members there are people's representative. If you can set up a cordon and tell them don't move past this area, it's fine. You are doing your policing duties. But the use of tear gas is...
Not just any tear gas. I mean... It was rumored, not rumored, it was mentioned yesterday, even our reporter had confirmed that it's not an ordinary tear gas. It was a different type of gas. And this one was so different that when the canisters were shot, once the substance touches your skin, it burns immediately and it chokes you immediately. Of course, you know what tear gas does. But he said this one was quite different. I mean, we're talking to protesters who have been protesting. You have journalists there,
you have members of civil society. They're not constituting any danger to public order. And then the Nigerian police, I really don't understand their mode of operation or why they had to deploy riot dispersal tools against peaceful protesters.
There's a lot going on. Let's go back to the Senate, this time the Senate. The Senate President, Senator Godswill Akpabio, decided to apply the vote style. And one thing he did was he didn't want to use the voice vote anymore. So he said, okay, all those who support the mandatory who do not support the mandatory should stand up and raise their hands up. since social media has called for, the voice vote is not working, and 55 persons stood up and raised their hands.
And he needs to stop making reference to social media. Nigerians.
And then he said, okay, put your hands down. Then 15 persons were the ones who stood up and then raised their hands. Not really raised their hands. They argued that, no, you can't go that way. And good enough, social media has also, let's use the social media, has also gone ahead to mention the names of the persons. You have Senator Inaya Baribe, ADC. You have Abdul Ningi. You also have Aminu Tumbawal, Ireti Kingigbe, Seraki Dixon, Onawa Gwashi, Tony Nwoye, Victor Ume, Ibrahim Dakwambo, and also Austin Akubundu, Khalid Mustafa, Sikayo Yaro, Emmanuel Nwachuku, Peter Jia, Natasha Potudonga, 15 of them. And guess what? All 15 of them, none of them is an APC member. They are all opposition party members from the ADC, PDP,
so they voted along
party
line.
ABGA, and not forgetting to, and so on. So this is a fight. One thing Nigerians need to understand is, because we've seen a lot and we've tried to analyze it, maybe as journalists we've looked at it from different points of view. It's a fight of the majority winning. That's what happened yesterday. It's not a case of the minorities are the ones we've mentioned now. Now we're focused on the Senate. So in the Senate, it's a case of the majority. Majority won yesterday. And the majority is what you saw in the numbers, 55, minorities 15. How do you go out of that? How do you push that out? How do you ensure that you can still navigate your way and say, no, we still want mandatory? The mandatory could have been possible if the part of the majority joined with the minority and said, listen, we agree with these guys. In as much as we're card-carrying members,
in the overriding interest of Nigerians.
Exactly, it would be, because, and so we're starting to see a problem where politics is now taking over the whims and caprices of what we see displayed, especially not just from politicians outside of the Senate, but it's starting to sneak into the Senate, whereby, let me state it clearly, that people are now more politically focused than people focus. Because it's one thing to listen to what the people are saying. If INEC had said that they achieved 94%, guys, and to Nigeria, 94% of 2023 election, making sure that all the results were actually shared from each polling unit, there was no glitch. Remember, it's only the presidential election that we had that glitch that came up. INEC certified that. So don't you think we should move further by saying, okay, you know what, if INEC was able to achieve this amount, then that means we can do 100. The next thing that should have been done, every Nigerian would have expected, was that there would have been a sit down with INEC reps. And like someone said, leave the mandatory to INEC. It's not your business. You just pass the law. Let INEC do the job. But in all of this, Benga and all of it, if I drop my microphone, the biggest fish that nobody is pointing fingers at in the pool of water is the fact that even if the Senate had agreed to ensuring that electronic voting or transmission of results was mandatory, the president will still have to approve.
Okay, you know what? Let's
it will still go on. The president will send to the president, and the president will still have to sign. So if the president now says, I don't want to sign, what does it mean? We will now go back to the Senate again, rigmarole, and INEC has nothing less than, maybe we just have 20 or 30 days to go. And even this one they signed.
All right, we need to take what Nigerians are saying. I'll start from YouTube, and then I'll head to X. Mokuye Chukwemeka, thanks for your comment. Good morning. Says, at the expense of one man, this is terrible. I wish reasonable Nigerians will arise and fight this head on. Then there's Akpabio mocking Abaribe. That I can imagine him saying it with passion. Frank Obute says, Nigeria, let's stick together and fight this legislative daylight coup. Otherwise, we are all in for a long ride to a point of no return. Let's now head to X and explore some of the tweets on X. What Nigerians are saying. Our first tweet: time to choose between light and darkness, between good and bad law, going forward or backward. Longinus Ozoagu says, Mr. Speaker, that man shouting point of order won't take it easy with you when you meet for street. Kilode, with all his shout, you just ignored. Olorunda Paul tweeted, Deputy Speaker, sir, Aren't you supposed to read the clauses before hitting the gavel? Jennifer Omosefeduru. This is not a democratic country anymore. Even the legislature has been hijacked, Abdurrahman says. Next tweet, why APC they fear transparency in the electoral process, MLF asks. Ismail, well, a country of particular concern, quote unquote.
Indeed.
And then the next tweet, what is our obsession with old ways of doing things? An important process like this, and it is still yay or nay everywhere. This goes back to the conversation about voice votes and whether or not voice votes should be, you know, the basis by which certain very important decisions are made. And as a Nigerian citizen watching, if I were to advise the lawmakers, for you to show importance, for you to show Nigerians that you're genuinely concerned, that you genuinely hear the complaints and the cries of Nigerians and you're genuinely for the people, there are certain things that cannot be taken, you know, with kids' glove. Things like showing up on the day you need to vote on a certain bill, showing up to the House, especially knowing that Nigerians have criticized lawmakers for cutting away.
I mean, looking at the background, the protest, the noise.
I was going to get to that. So, first of all, showing up, you know, that's one issue. Secondly, the fact that this has been a contentious matter since last year, that Nigerians have been protesting at the gates of the National Assembly, occupying the National Assembly. Again, you know, just to speak about that, Nigerians do have a right to protest. The Constitution provides for the right to freedom of association, and you can dissent. You don't always have to argue with the government, because that's where those check and balance come in, right? The citizens, that's the way the citizens check the government when they're not in line with government actions. So long as it's a peaceful protest, I'm not quite sure I get the idea of tear gassing protesters and when that became a norm for us here in Nigeria. But these are the major concerns. You're put there to represent people, not to showcase or flex your importance. And even for the leaders, for the speakers, you are first among equals. You are not better or higher. You were elected into the position just like every other Nigerian, just like every other lawmakers were elected. So their voices carry as much weight as your voice carries. Yes, you're the first amongst equals, but you must treat your colleagues with the decorum that House, you know, carries, and that House should carry. I think should carry much more than carries.
In all of this, guys, another thing is, where is the Minister of Communication and Innovation? Honorable Bosu Tijani.
Well, I don't know.
Is this not the time for him to come and explain to the Senate? Did the Senate invite? Maybe he should have explained that there's a possibility, because since I've known him from Yaba days, he's very apt when it comes to how technology can go into the nook and crannies, the rural areas, and so I was expecting that all these fights, the Honorable Minister of Communication would have been invited.
The Association of Telecom Operators in Nigeria, because they know where all the base towers are.
No, but I don't know if you saw the video that Jega granted, the interview he granted.
That's a long, yes, he said it's possible.
He said it's possible that they had done the trial. Mahmoud Yakub. And he had said that they had done the trial in Nasarawa in 2020.
Yes.
And that the transmission does not depend on electricity as it's done. It's an offline machine.
Yes.
So if he said at the time that it was possible, what's changed? Why are we there?
I mean, a few years down the line.
Just 6 years down the line. When things should have even advanced.
Things have advanced.
Yeah,
so I think we're just making excuses.
Nigerians, Lagos, I think it's that time we on our part will send a message to the Honorable Commissioner of Communications and Innovation and Digital Economy. We'll try and reach out to him. Let's see if we can come on the show. Because one of the challenges you have with some of the honorable ministers, we have to say it here, is when you invite them to come and explain these situations like this, you find them always dodging your invitation. So the Honorable Commissioner, please do well to expect our invitation, and we hope that you will come and explain to us as journalists and also as Nigerians.
But they're always happy to speak to foreign media.
100%. They talked about how, and Ivanek had registered again, 94%, and then during his time as a tech giant, mentioning the possibilities. And then people are also saying, if you have the bandits doing live TikTok videos in the locations, in the bush, and then the communication of, oh, you know what, they use a particular thing, Starlink, you can't trace the Starlink. Those stories they are all jargon.
Stories that touch the kidney.
Let's leave those stories that really touch the kidney and also scatter the toe. Those are stories that Martin Luther King would have screamed from where he was. But
let's quickly go on a break, but bring you the top stories this morning, and after that we head straight on into the top stories. But these are the top stories that we'll be discussing this morning on Breakfast Central. Breakfast Central top stories. Madam Nasir El-Rufai faces corruption charges. The plot thickens. We'll be analyzing Cross River State 2026 budget. And then we'll also still be looking at the conversation that we started the show with today, Occupy National Assembly protest, as it turned chaotic and what the way is out of that. Now, Nigeria industrial policy is unveiled. I'll be bringing you a report on that, as well as the front pages of the newspaper being reviewed. Stay with us for these and more.
In the light of recent happenings in Nigeria, starting off with the story concerning former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai, who's facing a storm of allegations linking him to corruption and cybersecurity breaches allegedly committed during and after his time in office, according to reports from investigative panels and leaked documents circulating online. El-Rufai and some former aides are accused of financial misconduct, not forgetting to unauthorized access to government systems, the phone tapping, and misuse of classified digital data claims. His camp has strongly denied. The allegations reportedly stem from an ongoing Kaduna State government probe into financial transactions and IT infrastructure decisions made under its administration. Sources say the inquiry is exploring whether sensitive information was compromised and whether state resources were diverted for personal or political gain. We'll be looking into this conversation concerning the all-important family, which has now become enemies, or better still, many would say frenemies. On the heels of that conversation, we'll also take a look at the recent one, which has got to do with the Senate and the House of Representatives aligning, maybe this time agreeing together for the benefit, or maybe for not the benefit of Nigerians. But let's talk about all of these issues as we have our guest who joins us here today. Human rights lawyer Inabe Effiong is live in the studio. Thank you so much for being here, and good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good morning.
I think it's only right to start from where the heat is coming from. And if we trace the kitchen, the heat is coming from the right, which happens to be the source that's being cooked in the Senate and the House of Representatives. We're talking about the mandatory transmission of electoral results before we go to the family feud. In real time. You saw what happened yesterday. The House of Representatives had agreed initially in December 2025 before they went on recess, and all of a sudden they're back, and maybe they decided to align with the Senate. I had one question, and I think you're in the right position to help us with the answer. What if the House of Rep did not agree? They stuck to their guns. What would have happened?
By virtue of Section 58 of the 1999 Constitution, read along with Section 4, the legislative powers of the National Assembly is exercisable by the Senate and the House of Representatives. Because we operate a bicameral legislature, and Parliament exercises its legislative power through passage of bills or laws, there has to be concurrence between the Senate and the House. Where there is no unanimity on a bill or what is to be passed or a legislative measure, such bill or endeavor would have failed. So assuming the House did not align with the version of the bill passed by the Senate, recourse would automatically be made to the Extant Electoral Act, which is the 2022 Electoral Act. The Senate and the House of Reps have to agree before any bill can be passed constitutionally. And once they have done that, it has now to be sent to the President for assent. Now, what we have seen in the National Assembly is not surprising to some of us, for the simple reason that we have a crop of legislators, individuals who have resolved that they will not vote in consonance with the aspirations of the vast majority of our people. I personally did not have a lot of hope in this National Assembly led by Senator Godswill Akpabio, a man whose opposition or adversarial nature to democracy is well documented. But what I find very provocative about their refusal to allow electronic transmission in real time, compulsory electronic transmission in real time, is that they seem to be telling Nigerians, do your worst. Now, the moment there is allowance for the exercise of discretion, the moment INEC is given a choice, the moment presiding officers are allowed the latitude to say that recourse will be had to manual, you have undermined the electoral process.
All right.
Because of the experience of the last election. So there should be nothing like discretion. So all these arguments about connectivity, technology, for me, doesn't hold water, because they are diagnosing a problem that either doesn't exist in real sense, or there is a solution before them. What will it cost INEC to make provision for either Starlink technology or some other service providers to make internet available in polling units that have been identified to potentially have connectivity issues? So this is not about, oh, there will be internet problems. This is just a party that is determined to truncate the will of the Nigerian people, a party that knows that if you allow credible elections, we are likely going to be voted out, because IREF and real-time transmission is supposed to be the game changer.
All right, we should talk about the legal options or the legal remedies that exist if they decide to go ahead with this.
Well, they have gone ahead, they've passed it already.
Well, let's go on a quick break. We will come back from the break and then explore what next regarding the Electoral Act amendment. To Breakfast Central, we're still exploring the electoral reforms, as well as looking at what's next for Nigerians and what the implications of this will be in the 2027 elections. We're joined by human rights lawyer Inibehe Effiong. Inibehe, you've spoken strongly against what is currently happening in the House. Now, the question is, are there any alternatives? Are there any, I mean, it's been passed, but is there a way out? Is there any plan B? Beyond protest, because that's the only way Nigerians know how to register their displeasure.
Yes.
But and they have been protesting and they've been tear gassed, unfortunately. But is there any other thing that can happen to ensure that there's a reversal of some sort?
The only thing that can happen is for more Nigerians to protest. You are not going to go to court to challenge the legislative power of Parliament to pass a law. They have the right to pass the Electoral Act, to amend the electoral law. They have the right to do that constitutionally, except you want to argue that what they have passed is unconstitutional. But this is a matter within their legislative competence. What should happen is for this to become a national agitation, and not for just few patriotic Nigerians to go before the National Assembly. If we have people congregate across the 36 states, or at least majority of the states in their thousands, these guys' hands can be forced. Because the way the country is, and that is why some of us politically aligned with Omoyele Sowore, because we have come to the conclusion that the solution ultimately may have to be some form of revolution. Because we are dealing with a fatalistic political class. I don't want to call them political elites. There's nothing elitist about these guys. We are dealing with a political class that has resolved not to allow the country to work. So if you want to effect a change, if you want to force their hand, it has to be based on the collective action of Nigerians. Now that they have passed their so-called harmonized version, the president will likely assent to it, because my estimation is that this is likely a conspiracy between the president and the National Assembly. I do not think the National Assembly would have proceeded on this matter without the involvement of the president. And if you look at what has happened in the Senate and in the House of Reps, the voting was clearly along partisan lines. Why is the APC, the so-called progressives, why are they against a progressive electoral reform? Have you not observed? The members, the 15 senators who voted,
well, from the opposition,
they're entirely from PDP, Labour Party, and the ADC. The opposition, no single senator from the APC voted in support of real-time transmission. Doesn't that tell you something? Are they saying, for example, that the 3 senators from my state, including Godswill Akpabio, Nneka Mbasi, and the other senator that voted, the 3 of them who voted in support of this, are they saying there are areas in Akwa Ibom without internet? Can they say that? That there's a community in Akwa Ibom that doesn't have internet access? These are people
that brings me to this question, and Nigerians have also been questioning the true meaning of democracy, because in the overwhelming spirit of Nigerians, a majority of the constituents of all the senators are in favor of real-time electronic transmission of election results, and they get to the Senate chambers and decide otherwise. Does it mean that they have no fear of repercussion from the people, or they can just decide to subvert the people's will and damn the consequences? Let's not also forget that there's been a build-up to this. Nigerians have been shouting in the media, there's been protest, members of civil society, but the senators decided to, and the legislators decided to damn the consequences and do otherwise. In the House of Representatives, the overwhelming majority shouted nay, and the Senate and the Speaker of the House says the ayes have it. I mean, it begins to question the quality and the type of democracy we operate in Nigeria.
No, what should have happened in the House in particular? For the Senate, it has always been a hopeless situation. Godswill Akpabio would not allow any amendment that would guarantee credible elections. This is a man who was defeated by another candidate who contested on the platform of the PDP. And when he lost that election, I'm not sure he really recovered. I'm not sure Akpabio recovered in 2015 when he lost the senatorial election. In 2023, you are aware of the circumstances in which he himself got to the Senate. He wanted to be president, a presidential candidate. He bought the ticket, the nomination form of the APC. He did not contest in the senatorial primary, but today he's the Senate President of Nigeria. If you're a man with that history, will you want to allow credible elections? This is our survival for these people. They don't care about the country. They don't care about Nigerians. We should even be talking about electronic voting. Electronic voting. I should be able to sit in the comfort of my home, pick my mobile phone, and vote the party or candidate of my choice. But just allow real time, compulsory, without any room for discretion. Because the moment you say manual, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but what stops them from ordering internet service providers to shut down internet on that day? Have you considered that?
It's a possibility.
Or to deliberately target certain areas and frustrate internet from being accessible. So what they have done is that they have already undermined. For me, this is an indication that the coming elections is already being rigged. Because the last election, the problem was identified. INEC claimed there was a glitch. A glitch that National Assembly has not investigated. Akpabio has not bothered to investigate. Right? Tajuddin Abbas has not bothered to investigate. Tinubu has not bothered to investigate. Professor Mupita, the current INEC chairman, has not bothered to investigate. Nobody has bothered to investigate Mahmoud and his co-travelers. what the glitch was.
And the billions of taxpayers' money that was
used for that. Nobody in Nigeria has, no institution in Nigeria has bothered to
Now,
invest.
before we move into other areas, are there any guardrails? Because it looks like this battle for real-time transmission has been lost, because both houses have passed, it's left to harmonize and send to the president for assent. Are there any other guardrails that Nigerians could use to protect their ballot and ensure that we have free and fair elections beyond the real-time transmission of election results?
I must start by commending Nigerians who have been consistent, like Peter and others, who have been going to the National Assembly on a daily basis to protest, and they had to tear gas them. They are asking of guardrails. People are coming out to say, this is what we want you to do. They have been tear gas, assaulted. It is despicable. And then the spokesperson of the House of Reps, Mr. Rotimi, is saying, allegedly, I read his statement this morning. Allegedly. I will send a video to him after this interview. Maybe he will issue another, because he's saying allegedly. They were allegedly tear gas. The party told us not to believe our eyes.
Our reporter was on ground. They were tear gas.
But I'm saying
It's Orwellian for him to say that.
They are telling us not to believe our eyes. Allegedly,
1984, yes.
People that have been assaulted for coming to Parliament, are you saying Nigerians cannot protest in the National Assembly? So these people are pushing Nigerians to the wall. There's no other guardrail other than Nigerians taking their country, insisting. And in the next election, because it looks like these people are ready to declare war. But if they want to declare war, the war has to be between them and the Nigerian people. If this government is so effective, so efficient, this city boy movement nonsense they are telling us about, if this city boy movement is so good, maybe I'm a village boy, oh. I don't know whether you are a city boy. Do you think we are part of the movement?
I don't know what
I think I'm a village boy, because from where I stand, people are suffering in the country.
And they are
telling us city boy movement. So the city boy movement must now face the real people now. The next election has to be a battle between the forces of good and evil.
But what do you do about
it? There's still a force of good and, I don't know if it's force of good and evil. I mean, you're talking about the war between the government and the people. But there's another war that seems to be brewing, and this time it's between Malam Nasir El-Rufai and the government of the day. So let's talk about, first of all, the legality or otherwise of his arrest at the airport. He said his executive overreach, or his attempted arrest rather at the airport. He said is an executive overreach. Let's talk about the legality of that, and because we have less than 5 minutes, and I'm hoping that we can do justice to that story with the little time that we have.
The government, if they believe El-Rufai has committed a crime, they have the right to arrest him, provided his rights are not violated. I'm not going to say El-Rufai should not be arrested. If they believe he has committed a crime, they can take him into custody. Normally, you will expect that they will invite him, not because he's a former governor, except for violent crimes or certain categories of offenses. A suspect should ordinarily be invited before arrest is resorted to. Because even by law, a suspect, there should be no unnecessary restraints. But under this Administration of Criminal Justice Act, the suspect shouldn't even be handcuffed, except he attempts to flee. The point here is that the allegation of taping the NSS phone communications, I don't know whether my position, which I have taken publicly, that the government is not serious about it. First, the State Security Service does not have prosecutorial powers, and I hope the court will prove me wrong on this. Under the National Security Agencies Act, SSS has no power to prosecute.
So who will then prosecute on their behalf?
It ought to be the Attorney General of the Federation or the police. Yes. But if the lawyer who signed that charge has been given fiat by the AGF, they should disclose it. Because on the face of the charge, there is nothing showing that the fiat has been given. And further to that, what are they talking about? Are they really saying...
Why is the court even entertaining an agency that doesn't have prosecutorial
No,
power?
because it will have to be argued before a judge. Oh. Those issues will have to be argued before a judge.
Okay.
But this name, Department of State Services, is unknown to law. It's unknown to law. Some lawyers say, well, it is a misnomer, but they don't see it as a misnomer. They believe that is their name. And they should be taken up on that. But on a more serious point, when you look at the charge, it's being charged under Section 12, Section 27, of the Cybercrimes Prohibition Act and under Section 131 Sub 2 of the Nigerian Communications Act for using technical equipment and system to intercept the phone conversation of the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu. That is a serious allegation. Based on what he said on Arise Television, I'm not sure if what they are saying is tenable or not. They will have to argue that in court, but I have pointed out that the burden of proof, Nigerians should know that under the Evidence Act, the burden of proof rests entirely on the prosecution. And based on the constitutional right of silence, or what we call right against self-incrimination, or in the US, what is called the fifth, El-Rufai is not obligated to utter a word. He doesn't have to say anything. He doesn't have to respond. So those who are saying, oh, El-Rufai will have to disclose those who he was. No, he doesn't have to say anything. The government must prove that the NSS phone was actually tapped. The government must establish how this was done, when this was done, which of his mobile lines or phone was tapped.
Okay,
so it's an uphill task for them.
As well,
it's a long road for
the accusation as well about the importation of chemicals, which the NSA has denied. Where does the burden lie? Because are we going to look at, the saying that he who alleges must prove? If El-Rufai is alleging that these chemicals were being imported, are we expecting him to prove that?
That is a very serious and grave allegation. I am worried as a Nigerian, as a member of the human rights community, because you don't know who they are going to attack. If this is true, that poisonous chemical substances have been imported into the country, there should be some form of investigation and inquiry. Who will be targeted? Is it for Boko Haram terrorists? Is it for kidnappers? Who are they going to use this poisonous substance to attack? What is the intelligence behind this? What is the security architecture or policy behind that kind of thing? So for El-Rufai to say it, it's possible he knows what he's saying. It's possible he knows what he's saying. I don't want to just dismiss it. It is a serious matter. All of us should be alarmed.
So, should we expect a detailed response from the NSA, or
who will
to prove it? Because he's the one making such allegations, and I do agree that these are very grave allegations.
Who will investigate the investigator? Who will investigate the investigator? That is the question.
But also, we all see the writings on the wall. It's looking more like it's a political, situation than what meets the eye. Because many have said, okay, why are you talking now? If you were made maybe the minister or something, Nigerians will not hear of this. Where do we go from here, especially noting that all of these things are happening at a critical point when elections, primaries and all that are about to begin?
Legitimate question. People are asking about El-Rufai's motive. I am not his fan. I have said that on record. His record as governor of Kaduna State did not promote human rights. People like Stephen Kefas, Odo Maikori, Adara chiefs, and so on. And there are a lot of people who were victims of his high-handedness in Kaduna. So he is not particularly an ambassador of human rights or due process.
So he's not coming to equity with clean hands?
Yes, because he himself has violated the rights of people. If you look at the case of Maikori, and governor of Kaduna State, he was indicted by the Court of Appeal for violating the rights of Maikori. So those cases are documented. But now he's in the opposition, having been nominated for a minister, maybe he felt humiliated. For me, what is important is that Nigerians must find a way to challenge this government. This is happening as we are approaching the next election. And I don't think they will limit it to him. But the aspect that has to do with economic and financial crimes, let him answer to that. If the EFCC has a case against him, which seems to be the case, whether that case will hold up in court, at this time I cannot see. But because the EFCC has invited him and he has responded to them, let him answer to the allegations. If they have a prima facie case, of course he should be charged. He doesn't have immunity. He's not above the law. The same for the ICPC. Every former governor in Nigeria should be reporting to the EFCC on a daily basis. Honestly. It shouldn't be only El-Rufai, including my former governor Akpabio, including Udomi Mandua. All of them should be answering to the EFCC. I do not believe that the governor in Nigeria today, the former governor, that if you look into his records, if they are, maybe just a handful.
Honestly,
a handful. If the overwhelming majority of them have cases to answer.
If we get to the point where after every governor leaves office, they have to account and they know that their accounting might either land them in prison. We'll see a lot of sanity.
It reduce the impunity.
In the executive, you know, in the executive. Yes. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
We have more conversations coming this morning, but let's share with you what's coming up next on Breakfast Central. This morning, we'll be analyzing Cross River State's budgets, the 2026 budget. We'll also be heading to the National Assembly to bring you updates on the Occupy National Assembly protests that have unfortunately turned chaotic. Police boost security in Yagba East local government area. Stay with us.
As the nation reviews its 2025 expenditures and rolls out the 2026 budget, it becomes imperative to highlight state budgets as well. And on Breakfast Central or News Central, we have decided to take time to analyze these budgets. Cross River State's 2026 budget shows substantial increases in key social sectors, notably education, health, and human development. The social sector allocation rises from 69.23 billion naira in the 2025 revised budget to 13.32 billion naira in 2026, an increase of over 44 billion. Well, let's also tell you that what you can see on the screen there also has what you find in 2025 and what you now find in 2026 that's been approved. Take a look at Ministry of Sports. From 927 million naira approved in 2025, you now have 2.91 billion naira in 2026 already approved. And the list goes on. Now, one that may interest you as well is that of humanitarian affairs, 798 million naira and approved to 1.214 billion naira. However, let's tell you that the January to September 2025 performance figures raises concerns about execution, just like we've seen in recent times. Ministry of Agriculture, not forgetting to the recent one, yes, from Agriculture saying they've not received anything and so on. But let's focus on Cross River for a minute. Several ministries recorded very low utilization rates despite large allocations. Let's tell you some more and what you need to know as well.
Of course, the Cross River House of Assembly is projected to spend 17.26 billion in 2026, including approximately 3.53 billion naira on travel and training alone. A figure that exceeds the allocation to the state's primary healthcare development agency and nearly doubles the health insurance scheme budget. You can see the numbers on the screen and what they're saying. Ministry of Justice in 2025 had 2.049 billion naira approved, but revised to 2.114 billion naira. And between January and September, we could see 5 million naira performed and 1.700 billion naira approved, and obviously there was a decrease. So you see the numbers: Ministry of Justice, Regional Sector, Social Sector, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, and Ministry of Environment. And what we've seen is a decrease, increase, major increase, increase, and mixed in the Ministry of Environment. Now this raises broader questions about spending priorities, fiscal discipline, and alignment with citizens' needs. Joining us to discuss this is the social editor at GST, Koforowala Odozi, and joining us is public affairs analyst Jide Ojo. Koforowala Odozi joins us from our Abuja studio, and Jide Ojo joins us virtually. Good morning, lady and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Hi, good morning. Thank you.
Good morning. It's a pleasure.
Good to have you. I'll begin with you, Koforowala. How credible is a 2026 expansion when 2025 budget performance appears significantly low across several ministries? And, just give us your general overview of. We've been talking about budgets for weeks on this show, but let's get your sense of a general overview of how you perceive our budgets and how well or not well we're performing.
So by September 2025, as you showed on the screen, the budget performance was at 44 billion naira. And then what we're seeing from the projection for 2026 is 670 billion naira. And so that is a 15-fold increase from the year before. And to try and double or do an extensive stretch of the budget for a new year when we were barely able to hit 30% of utilization of the last budget, it doesn't speak to a state that actually is interested in development plans and actually moving the life of its constituents further, because it's like you didn't even reach 70% utilization capacity last year. So who says that tripling the budget or expanding it will allow you to actually reach your target this year?
Right, I'd also now bring Mr. Jide into the conversation as well. Let's get your thoughts of the budget. We've heard Kuforo's standpoint. Let's see if you have a different opinion.
Thank you. You see, one thing we need to understand is that budget is an estimate, and there is never a precision in terms of revenue and expenditure. It's a moving target, and you are just working on presumption, because that's why you see oil benchmark, exchange rates, assumptions, all of them. How much revenue is expected, projected revenue, projected expenditure. I recall that under the immediate past administration of Professor Ben Ayade, there was even a time that he released a budget of over 1 trillion. And I laughed because the state wasn't going to get 1/3 of that amount under Buhari administration. So why don't you want to just have a laudable paper tiger that just have figures, very bogus figures on paper, but in reality, you are going to be miles away from achieving that target. So you need to bring it closer home. These are projections. I agree with Kofo that budget implementation has been a very sticky issue in Nigeria, whether you're talking about federal, state, or local government. In fact, in local governance system, there is even no budgeting at all. Local government chairpersons just spend as they get, as their lordship places at the state government quarters, because it's the governor that controls the budget on behalf of the state, which is why the federal government went to court to challenge the local government autonomy, financial autonomy, which we know has not been implemented. So I'm waiting to see a local government that could say, yes, we have a budget for a particular year. These are the spending, expenditure, and all of that. But having said that, when you come back to issue of priority areas, I think what Prince Basil too is trying to do is to make his State House of Assembly happy. Don't forget, the election is next year, and he doesn't want to incur the wrath of this. And this is also an assumption on my part. So when you see an exponential increase in the amount budgeted for the State House of Assembly in billions, perhaps they need to show something they are doing to their different constituencies. So a larger chunk of that amount will possibly be for constituency projects so that they can have something to campaign in getting a re-election. We do know that for State House of Assembly, for National Assembly, there is no term limit. So in a pre-election year, you want to make your State House of Assembly happy. But that is not even to say that this projected envelope for the State House of Assembly or for any of the ministries, departments, and agencies will be released. We do know that budget estimate passed and approved is not tantamount to you getting the exact sum. Many a time, we have had, even at the federal level, ministers complaining that their money was hanging. The Office of Accountant General, the Office of the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Ministry of Finance are not releasing what is due to them in their ministries, departments, and agencies. Recall that on the street of Abuja, we have recently local contractors protesting that the promised amount has not been released to them. So one thing is, though, you even have a budget, whether it's increased or tripled or major increase or whatever. One thing is to have that increase. Another thing is cash backing. Do they get cash backed? Does these ministries, departments, and agencies, do they get full complement of whatever is approved for them in the state budget? The answer is no. I know from experience that many of them have to lobby, do all sorts of things to get a sizable sum of their approved budgets released to them. Because budget, like I said from the beginning, is an estimate. So if you go to the Office of Accountant General, Office of Minister, Commissioner for Finance, it will say to you, once we have allocation we will treat these files, we will pay this sum, but we cannot give everybody what they need at the same time. So the amount is usually prorated based on income flows. So we need to bear that in mind, that whatever we are discussing in terms of budget projections, in terms of approved budget, is still a far cry from getting cash back, that same amount getting released to them. So that has been my own experience in terms of public finance in Nigeria. You have an amount approved for you, but after a 12 calendar month, you may be lucky to get 60% of that approved sum released to you for anything you want.
Mr. Ojo, I would like to stay with you for a bit before we go to Koforola in Abuja. I believe the budget you were talking about, Ben Ayade's budget, was a 2018 budget of kinetic crystallization. It was 1.3 trillion naira. I wonder how much actualization he did in that year. But talking about, and I like the background that you've given us about this budget just being promises on paper. My question is, these budgets, do they also factor in internal generated revenue, or is based on projections of money they will receive from FAC allocations?
Is that question for me or for
you, sir?
So my own experience is this. Usually they also have an expected income in terms of IGR, aside from the FAC allocations. Again, do you know for a fact that FAC allocation is not static? It's not like if you get 3 trillion or assuming you get, as a state, you get 200 billion this month. You may get less, you may get more the following month. So there's actually no certainty how much you get from FAC allocation. It can only be projected. The second aspect, which speaks directly to your question, is also the issue of IGR. Yes, states will get IGR, but that is also projected estimated income. Because take for instance, if you project that you are going to collect X amount in taxes or levies, or in terms of royalty, you may not be able to get all of these projected sums for one reason or the other. Let me give you a very classical example. When the budget for 2020 was being prepared in 2019, no state in Nigeria, not even the federal government of Nigeria, emphasized that there was going to be COVID-19. But then COVID-19 came. Most of our projected revenue, projected income never materialized. Budget had to be scaled down because of COVID-19. So it does happen that there are so many unintended consequences. There could be conflicts, there could be issues of capacity to even collect. And now it's even more dicey that we have a national tax law in place. I don't know how much of harmonization has come with our tax system with this new omnibus tax law that has been in place. Because I recall that Taiwo Oyedele, chairman of the presidential task force on tax reform, talking about state House of Assembly having to pass certain legislation to bring their tax law in sync with that of the federal government. That in itself means that there are some revenues that are currently being collected by the state government that the federal government may start to collect from this 2026. It then means that most of the projected revenue in terms of IGR may also not be may not be achieved if the federal government takes over the collection of this revenue. Take, for instance, the issue of VAT. Usually it's the states that collect VAT and remit. But now I think VAT will have to be collected centrally, because now we don't have Federal Inland Revenue Service, we have the National Revenue Service. And some of these tax collections, some of these levies will now have to be collected by the federal authorities and then put in a distributable pool.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing. Let me go to Koforola. Very quickly. Kofo, I mean, we're out of time, unfortunately. First of all, kudos to the good work GST is doing, spotlighting some of these budgets, taking them one state at a time. I do have a list here. It talks about the major allowance breakdown, and I want to mention quickly. Domestic servant allowance goes to 75.48 million naira. We also see transport allowance 68.72 million naira per person. If you come down to medical and security, 5.35 million naira. How many people in Cross River would have access to such humongous or huge amount? And what do you say about the budget in terms of the people? Is it a people-friendly budget?
I think as Julia said earlier on, budgets are a raw document. They represent the state's, how the state interprets the care they have for their constituents. And so if you take the allocation for health, for example, and you see that we have 4 million people there and they've allocated an amount that would come down to 1,300 naira per person per year, you start to understand that on what scale will 1,000 naira do in the health sector for one person for you? You can't even buy malaria drug for 1,000 naira. So when you break it down like that, when you break it down into the granular numbers of how this will affect each individual member of the state and according to the budget, you understand that no, really, they have not actually factored in the care of the people, and they've prioritized the comforts of the elites in how they've allocated money in this budget.
Okay. I mean, just to wrap things up as well, just in 30 seconds, Mr. Jide Ojo, I think I'd like to get yours in 30 seconds, please, because we're out of time before I also listen to Kufrola once more. What's the way forward in ensuring that budgets like this, when they are passed, they trickle down to the people? We've seen what's happening on the national level. Just yesterday, or just this week, the agricultural sector did come out to say that no monies have been given to them, even from the top, nothing from the federal government, even though it was budgeted for.
Really, you know what you should start in preparing budget, there should be what's called need assessment. You need to assess the needs of the people. That's why you need to go to them. Communities by communities, what are your needs? Do you need road? Do you need water? Do you need electricity? It's not to just put an amount in the budget and presume that that's what you have put in the budget is actually what the people of the state needs. So until when you change that orientation of just an envelope system where you just minus and plus for every year, irrespective of whether what you are even planning in terms of capital projects are what the people in different communities need, there will be no trickle down. So the best thing is to have budget prepared based on the needs of the communities that make up the state. Once that is done, and then there is proper costing, then you will be speaking to the needs of the people. But like I said, most important factor in budgeting is implementation. We have seen at the federal level a lot of talks about rollover of capital expenditure from 2024 to 2025 to 2026, which is not an ideal thing. So you need to really tailor implementation. Capital expenditure implementation is very significant for there to be a trickle down to the various communities at the grassroots.
All right, Kufrola, you want to wrap it up as well? What it needs to be done to ensure it trickles down to the people?
Accountability and understanding that there is FOI Act where you can actually ask the government not just where did this money go, but what did this money actually do? We can actually follow up, because if you check a lot of states no longer update their public dashboards to show you what the allocated monies are actually used for. So I think there is an importance for we people to understand that this is our right. Like, it's our right to follow up on the budget and the allocated money. It's not just reserved for activists. It is an act that you have to do.
All right.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And I mean, just to quickly wrap things up, Kofo, how do we ensure that citizens can track these? I know that your organization does a lot of that, but how can we ensure that citizens are carried along, are able to track, demand accountability, and ask the right questions?
For starters, there's definitely the question of awareness and letting people know that this is something that there is already an existing act that allows you to follow up with your House of members, follow up with your governors and ask them, the money that was budgeted, what did it do? Where did it go to? Because something that we've been seeing in the past with the budgets is that different people allocated different things, but then at the end of the year, at the end of the review period, is like, what did these people do? And then when there is no report, there is no budget cuts, there is no deep scrutiny of the work that was done. So it's very important that we as citizens understand that it is our right to follow up with the allocated monies and ask, where did this actually go and what did this actually do? Who are the people that were impacted? Where are the communities that you said you did boreholes for? Where did you do the healthcare system? Which hospitals did you equip? So it is our right as people and as citizens to follow up and ask these specific questions.
Nigerians will wake up and just know that they have an act to follow up, especially with the House of Rep members, not forget to Assembly members, even the governors, asking what was done with the budgets that were put in place, or rather just, maybe just keep shut and hope and pray that something will change for the better.
Sure too.
Always pray. Thank you so much, Mr. Jidojo, for joining us and sharing insights into this. And thank you so much as well, Kofarala, for being here with us and from GST. Great job you guys are doing once again. Thank you so much. Okay, we'll move on now to another conversation this time, and it takes us back to where it all started. Benga, you want to lead this one?
Tensions fled at the National Assembly in Abuja following the release of tear gas canisters by security operatives to disperse a protest by citizens demanding that lawmakers amend the nation's Electoral Act to follow the real-time transmission of election results. What began as a peaceful protest, a gathering, ended up with protesters scampering for safety following the intervention by a combined team of security operatives which prevented them from advancing towards the complex. News Central's reporter Joshua Emarai reports.
These were moments before the peaceful protest over electoral reform spiraled into chaos. Protesters under the banner of the Movement for Credible Elections assembled at the entrance of the National Assembly, calling on lawmakers to adopt provisions that guarantee real-time electronic transmission of election results.
It's very clear without ambiguity. And what they have done is to already they're basically preempting us for the fact that they are planning to do exactly the provisos that they have put to that clause. Is that what we should take?
No. What we are doing here today is our right. Yes, sir. And it's our love for the country we are expressing. Yes, sir. They cannot be too sure that every part of Nigeria will continue to wait and protest peacefully like this. So the earlier they abandon that attempted coup and do the right thing, the best for the country.
The protest began with speeches and a press briefing, but later escalated when demonstrators attempted to move closer to the main gate of the complex. Security operatives resisted the move and subsequently fired tear gas canisters to disperse the crowd.
The Nigerian police force approached with extra vans, with extra policemen, and they are raining tear gas, as you can see from the visuals.
In the ensuing confusion, some protesters alleged harassment by security personnel, while a driver said to have conveyed demonstrators to the venue was forcibly dragged away by armed officers.
Why did he beat you? I know. They throw the chaga. I see one small girl, the woman, they cry. I call it the Peking child. I put on some throw the girl. I say, Oga, I beg her, Oga, my binu. I beg me not to again. Before I know, back. I saw Oga, see my ID card. See my, I show him. We go see him for what's up. I say, see my ID card. I'm a driver, see my bed, my binu.
Although the protesters were eventually dispersed, organizers insist the agitation is far from over. They warn that failure by the National Assembly to address their demands could trigger a nationwide protest. In Abuja, for News Central, I am Joshua Emarai.
We're now joined this morning on the program by rights activist, lawyer, and former minister of Youth and Sport in Nigeria, Comrade Solomon Dalong. A warm welcome to you, sir, and thank you for your time. Thanks for joining us again on Breakfast Central this morning.
Good morning, Nigerians, and thank you for the opportunity.
Now, lots of Nigerians have been, yearning and aspiring for the real-time transmission of electronic of election results by INEC. There's been protests, and in December last year, the House of Reps did pass the bill, but had to rescind yesterday. What is your take on the current state of the nation with regards to the protest and what happened at the Senate yesterday?
It's clear that we are practicing democracy since 1999, and democracy is about the people. Now, the parliament, which is National Assembly here, for us, because we have a bicameral legislature, is the house of the people, and the practices all over the world is people access the parliament easily because it's the people's house. That is where they go watch, monitor, listen to deliberations, have access to their members, present their problems, opinions about how they should be governed. The current challenges emanated from the fact that Nigerians are asking for electoral reforms. This has been ongoing. The campaign has been ongoing all over the media. Conferences have been held, rallies have been held to reinforce the electoral reforms. And when it came, we now had a different situation emanating from the National Assembly. And so the rights group decided, look, we have to be vigilant. This led to the current or the ongoing protest. The protest has been very, very peaceful, and all that we have been demanding from the speeches of all the leaders that have spoken is real-time electronic transfer of election results to guarantee transparency and the integrity of our polls. But it does appear that the National Assembly is on a different page completely. And this also confirms our suspicion that we are likely going to have this situation in our hands if we do not even start what we started. So basically now, the National Assembly, as you can see from the news, is in chaos. Lots of manipulation is going on there to just try to force down the throats of Nigerians. An electoral law that will guarantee the manipulation and the rigging of the electoral process to produce a discredited election. And on the side of the civil rights movements, we are also bent, and we will continue with the struggle of putting more pressure on the government, also mobilizing more hands, engaging many leaders to ensure that Nigerian people have their way.
But if you say that the civil rights movement will continue to put pressure to ensure that the Nigerian does what it needs to do, the Nigerian government does what it needs to do so that Nigerian citizens, can have their way, what really is the effect of protests? We see that when they are gathered, they're being tear gassed, and it seems that a bit of attention was paid to the protesters when the initial amendment was done to say no more transfer, it's now transmission. But now it's like they don't really care much about the protest. So is there really hope in protesters, being able to use that as a weapon to ensure that they hold the lawmakers to account?
The history of the struggle is anchored on the fact that an oppressor will not raise his knee on the neck of the oppressed unless being forced to do so. So there is nowhere in the world the operators will just wake up with a cup of tea and say to, oh, we are giving you this. Just like they would say, Tinubu said, power is not an a la carte, you have to take it, or you have to grab it, I don't know what it. So also is the struggle. And so whatever that you see happening is in pressure, and definitely they will ultimately give in, because the tyranny has never succeeded over the people. But about let me come back to the actions. The actions is because they are getting jittery. If you have monitored the protests, you will discover that there is building in of more political leaders coming into the rally ground to address the protesters. And you will also notice that there is a gradual swelling in the number of the people that are gathering there. So they are getting jittery that it might likely, from experience of what has happened elsewhere, it is likely going to be something that they might not be able to control more, and they are not willing to do what is right. What was released on the protesters yesterday, I do not believe is the normal tear gas I've experienced in my 5 decades of being on the street. During the military era, I had so much tear gas smoke from the military and the police. But what I saw yesterday was a release of a gaseous substance, which was released into the atmosphere. I was about 1,000 meters away from the gate. And it took less than 5 seconds for me to be attacked by it. Now, the impact of the gaseous substance which they released, if you watch, it went straight up into the atmosphere, and it was released from a contained gas pressure, gas container. The impact on my skin was sensational burning, and it lasted even to the night. Everywhere that was not covered by any cloth was also affected. So I want to believe that that is not the normal tear gas. I was right there when the police came with their numbers, over 15 vehicles, and they were shooting tear gas everywhere. I did not even walk away from that. I will just walk 4 or 5 steps away from the gate and stood under the tree, watching them demonstrating their madness and then shooting tear gases with joy and insulting the oppressors. I didn't move away from there. I remained there. They sent the people up to the main road, and then some of them went into the forest that was opposite it. So they also started shooting their tear gases, following the protesters into the forest there. And I think that is also a security or a military location there. So those soldiers who were there, the security, they started reacting. So there was also a counter shooting of tear gas from that location towards where the police were shooting, and then the police now decided to withdraw, and that gave some sanity, but they held their ground. So I don't believe that what was released or the attack on the protesters was a normal tear gas. I'm quite familiar with it.
Okay. I mean, you've talked about the gas that was shot into the air. We also heard that the impact on the skin was not favorable. Our reporter was on ground. He complained much bitterly about it. And you also witnessed it. I also saw a video of you talking tough about why such was used, especially on the people who were protesting peacefully. Can you share with us what this entirety means, especially for Nigerians, the protesters, and what will happen come 2027? What do you foresee?
Well, let me begin by commending the journalists who covered the protest from News Central. Because I was with him, even though he might not see me because he was embedded in smoke, which is Canada, but we were not too far from each other. And he was battling with even reporting at that point to cover what was happening. I don't want us to continue to promote what was used as tear gas. No, it wasn't. Even from the video there, you could see that the substances were pressed and it went straight into the atmosphere. And the impact, like you've said, is something that even this morning, I still feel irritation of impact on my body that was not covered and my face. So I think the summary of it all, how you can see it, the summary of it all is that this government needs to explain that substance that was used on Nigerians must be investigated. Because already there is an allegation by the former governor of Kaduna that the National Security Advisor imported into this country poisonous substances. For whatever reasons, that has not been explained. And then here you are, a very unique approach to dealing with a protest has been introduced by the Nigerian government, meaning that this government is willing to kill to remain in power. Therefore, the Nigerian people, from the character of those demonstrating yesterday, you can see that defiance and you can see the resistance. Because the people, yes, they took cover for their safety, but still did not go anywhere. They came back and there was engagement with the police. So there is a building spirit of resistance while there is also the spirit of we must capture at all costs from the side of the government and the security operatives that are helping them to perpetuate. So to me, there are hard times ahead, and for the struggle, of course, freedom does not come by celebration, it comes by a struggle, and the struggle continues, even if in the grave.
Now, Comrade DeLong, we still have quite a lot to cover. Before we let you go, we just want to take a quick time out to pay our bills, and then we'll be right back to continue this conversation. Do stay with us. You're welcome back to Breakfast Central, and we're currently discussing issues that have to do with the state of the nation with rights activist, lawyer, and former Minister of Youth and Sport in Nigeria, Comrade Solomon Dalong. Thank you so much for staying with us. Now, let's now switch gears to issues that happened in the National Assembly yesterday of national importance. One of the first things I want to highlight is that of 109 senators, just 70 showed up for such an important decision that has garnered a lot of national interest. 70 senators showed up to vote for the electronic transmission issue. And in the House of Reps, something dramatic happened that for an issue as important as this, it was subject to a voice vote. But I want you to watch this video. Take a look at this video, and then I'll come back to complete my question.
And legal drafting experts from the Directorate of Legal Services
yesterday morning
of the National Assembly met to harmonize and address the identified anomalies, recognizes the imperative of ensuring electoral timeliness and statutory provisions, promote maximum participation, fairness, inclusivity, administrative efficiency, and public confidence in the electoral system, desirous of correcting the identified inconsistencies and unintended consequences through appropriate legislative action in order to safeguard the integrity of the electoral framework. The House resolves to rescind the decision on the Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2025 and commit the same to the Committee of the Whole for consideration. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Eden. Is the Chairman Committee on Electoral Matters around? Yes, Honorable.
I rise to second the motion ably moved by the Chairman Rules and Business to rescind the decision of the Electoral Act.
Aye. Those against you say nay. The ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, sir.
So, Comrade Dalong, there are two issues here. The first question, the first leg of my question, is the obvious absenteeism, 70 senators out of 109 for such a contentious and important national issue. And then what you just saw now, from the audio, we know that the nays had the majority say in that voice vote. But the Speaker said the ayes have it. So what is your response to that? And do we need to also introduce electronic voting in Parliament so we can, for more accountability and we know who voted for what, rather than a shouting contest when it comes to voice votes?
Well, these rules are well entrenched in our laws. Even the legislative processes, the rules of the House has what method to be deployed and at what point, and even when there are disagreements, what should be adopted to resolve the issue. But the Speaker and the President of Senate of this 10th Assembly had introduced what we call legislative impunity. Well, that is disregarding anything that the floor decides and using the gavel to decide his own personal interest as the interest of the House. It has been like that. Even during the emergency rule, the Senate President just, the ayes have it, even when the nay was the majority. So it has been their practice of this 10th National Assembly. So I'm not surprised about what Abbas is doing. If you want to understand why they do these things, you have to look at their behavior whenever the president is coming into the hallowed chambers and how excited they would be. And instead of singing the national anthem, they would sing one ignoble song to welcome him. So I am not surprised by what happened there. And it is just in continuity of trying to impose tyranny in place of democracy on Nigerians. So these are attack dogs of tyranny, trying to do the biddings of their masters. But the point is, democracy is a very fragile institution nurtured by consensus and the rule of law. So once these basic foundations are attacked consistently, the next thing you will have is to fulfill the political opinion of a great political thinker who said, well, if it is not possible to have a peaceful change, it will also be inevitable to have a violent change. So they are gradually drifting the country into anarchy through impunity, abuse of processes, and nonchalant attitude, executive recklessness, and imposition at all costs. And that every rational Nigerian can understand. But the reaction of the people is also clear. You see what happened in Kano, where the APC rally, people gathered there, they were not afraid of the police, they were not afraid of security, and they were saying, Bamwai. Nigerians are speaking loudly, you have been rejected.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Dalong, for joining us this morning on Breakfast Central to share your thoughts as well as your experience with us regarding the protests that have happened outside the National Assembly.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll now be joined by a correspondent who also was on ground to cover the protests outside the National Assembly. Joshua Imara, good morning. How are you feeling today?
Good morning, Olive. I'm feeling better compared to yesterday. I was blind for a brief moment, but I regained my sight after the entire thing faded off.
I was so sad that, I mean, you can say once I was blind, now I can see, but for the wrong reasons. Joshua, let's talk about, the chemical. Mr. Dalong said he did not believe that this was actual tear gas, that he believes that it was something more. Do you agree with this as well?
Well, I sort of buy into that sentiment because from the feel of the tear gas, the moment it was shot in the air, it was actually dispersed in the air and it circulated within minutes. And not like the usual tear gas we've experienced most times, but this one has some sort of piercing feel on the skin. You could feel your skin peppery. For a brief moment, I lost my breath, I lost my sight. I couldn't move. I couldn't place my hand on what was wrong. I was asking myself if this was the regular tear gas we know the police force shoot. But one thing we saw yesterday was that when this particular tear gas is shot in the air, it comes out with flames. That immediately the canisters leave that gun, that's the shooting gun, it comes out with flames. So I don't know if this is the same tear gas that we all know, but this is a different ballgame.
Can you tell us about the experience and what made the Nigerian police? Because people have been protesting at the National Assembly for some days now, and tear gas canisters were not deployed. As the police authorities given any reason? And from your own observation, were the protesters trying to breach the gate of the National Assembly? And why did they deploy tear gas canisters against peaceful protesters? And they knew that journalists were there, members of civil society were there, and they were only carrying out their constitutional responsibilities, which guarantees them the right to peaceful protest.
Any particular reason with regards to dispersing that tear gas. But one thing I observed yesterday was that in the spontaneity of the moment, some of the protesters tried accessing the National Assembly once they were pushed back. The gates were locked, chained. But however, when a vehicle tried accessing the National Assembly, the gates were open. And in the whole process, some of the protesters wanted to follow the vehicle and run inside the National Assembly complex. That was when the tear gas was shot in the air. I can tell you for sure that some of the demonstrators tried accessing the National Assembly. They even tried scaling the fence. That's the gate itself. They tried scaling the fence. That was when the tear gas was shot. You could see that some of the members of Credible Movement for Election, the likes of Adewale Adebayo, the likes of Ubi Ezekwesili, the likes of Issa Abuba was there. Even the former Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Solomon Dalong, was there. They all felt the tear gas effect. So that was why they shot that tear gas. Before now, they've not been shooting tear gas. I was quite surprised that they were ready. But in a brief moment, after that first tear gas was shot in the air, all of a sudden we started seeing security operatives pulling out from different vehicles, from different corners. You would even imagine Abuja Environmental Protection Board, that is some of these guys wearing blue shirts. They were even apprehending protesters. There's a picture of where one of the drivers of that long vehicle was actually dragged by both officers of the Nigerian Immigration Service, as well as Nigerian Police Force, as well as even the Abuja Environmental Protection Board, who is not a security personnel, was even dragging these protesters. It shows that there seems to be less concern on the freedom of expression. Joe.
Okay, Joshua, just final question because we need to hit the news straight. Is that the end for hashtag Occupy National Assembly? It seems it's come to an end since we've seen a final verdict, a decision made both at the House of Representatives and also the Senate.
Question can be appropriately answered by some of the demonstrators or leaders of this demonstration. But one thing I know, and one thing they told us yesterday on the field, was that this might spiral into a nationwide protest. They might see a replication of the End Bad Governance protest, the same arrangement. And for a fact, the same laws they are fighting for has already been passed by the National Assembly, and it is not to their favor. So I don't think that they will die down because they've already made assertions that they'll be back. But this time, in full force nationwide.
Joshua Imari for joining us. Please do stay safe, and we hope that there are no after effects. We will reach out to law enforcement agents and confirm what exactly was sprayed into the air, if it was tear gas, and what their reasoning was. Thank you for joining us this morning, and our regards to the rest of the colleagues in Abuja. All right, this is still Breakfast Central. We're still streaming live on YouTube, where your comments matter. We're going to break. After this, we'll bring you breakfast headlines, and then we'll bring you the newspapers. Please stay with us.
Let's bring an update on breakfast headlines and start with the news telling you that millions of Muslims and Christians worldwide are marking the start of Ramadan and Lent, ushering in a season of fasting, prayer and spiritual reflection. For Muslims, Ramadan begins following a crescent moon confirmations in Saudi Arabia and other nations, with worshippers observing daily fasts and nightly prayers. In Nigeria, the commencement was announced by the Sultan of Sokoto, Saad Abubakar. Meanwhile, Christians begin the 40-day Lenten journey toward Easter, marked by repentance and devotion. However, countries including Japan and Turkey will begin Ramadan a day later based on local moon sightings. Let's move on now to another story and tell you that the Senate of Nigeria convened an emergency plenary to amend the timeline for the 2027 general elections and to cast a decisive vote on the contentious electronic transmission provision. The provision, designed to ensure the real-time transmission of election results, has sparked debate between lawmakers and electoral stakeholders over transparency, security, and the potential for technical failures. Senators weighed calls from civil society for strict electronic-only reporting against proposals allowing manual collation as a fallback. The session ended with the passage of clauses 60 and 80 of the Electoral Act, which allows both electronic and manual transmission of election results. Opposition party members in the House of Representatives staged a walkout in protest against the passage of clauses 60 and 80 of the Electoral Act, being amended, accusing fellow lawmakers of putting partisan interests ahead of electoral integrity. This followed the adoption of Clause 60, subsection 3, which provides for both real-time electronic transmission and manual transmission of election results, despite calls for groups by groups, that the results should be transmitted electronically without exceptions. Opposition lawmakers warned that retaining manual processes could undermine transparency, slow result reporting, and create opportunities for result alteration. Governor Francis Nwifuru of Ebonyi State has relaxed the curfew in Amasiri following deadly violence in Okporojo, Eda. The restriction will now run daily from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. to ease pressure on residents while maintaining security. The governor said schools may soon reopen to protect children's education and directed the Nigerian police force to prosecute all suspects arrested over the killings instead of prolonged detention. 4 people were killed and properties destroyed in the attacks. Authorities say security operations have restored relative calm, with further steps underway to recover victims' remains and ensure lasting peace in affected parts of Ebonyi State. Let's still talk about security matters now. Inspector General of Police, Mr. Kayode Agbetuku, has met with the former Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Abubakar, to leverage on his experience in effecting result-oriented law enforcement and ensuring national security. The meeting, which brought together past and present leaders of the Nigerian police force, also aimed at strengthening operational effectiveness and sustaining ongoing reforms.
I consider this visit particularly significant because it brings together past and present leadership in a manner that strengthens institutional memory and reinforces the principle that policing is a lifelong commitment beyond tenure or office. Nigeria's internal security environment continues to evolve, with emerging threats ranging from violent crime and kidnapping to cybercrime, communal tensions, and other challenges that demand intelligence-led and professional policing responses. In responding to these realities, the Nigerian Police Force remains committed to strengthening operational effectiveness, deepening professionalism, and ensuring that our constitutional mandate is carried out with integrity, discipline, and service excellence. To further strengthen our operational readiness, we have expanded the police mobile force through the establishment of additional squadrons, raising the number from 79 to 84 across the country. This expansion is designed to enhance our rapid response capacity and improve tactical support in addressing high-risk security challenges where they arise.
We appeal to Mr. President to fund the Nigeria police so that the police can take their lead position as security in this country, so that they can be able to take the challenges of safety and security in this country.
In the meantime, Nigeria's data protection regulator has launched an investigation into Chinese-owned e-commerce platform Temu over alleged violations of the country's data laws. The Nigeria Data Protection Commission, NDPC, said concerns about Temu's data processing practices, including online surveillance, opaque handling of user information, cross-border data transfers, and possible breaches of data minimization rules, prompted the probe. NDPC Chief Vincent Olatunji warned that any confirmed non-compliance could attract legal sanctions. And that's how we wrap up the news for this hour on Breakfast Headlines. The front pages of the newspapers is up next. Stay with us.
Hello, welcome back to Breakfast Central. It's now time for us to look at the newspaper front pages, and join us to do justice to the headlines and front pages today is public affairs analyst and chartered accountant and a good friend of the house, Sheson Okwade. It's interesting that accounting is one of those professions, but you guys don't have a prefix to your name. And in a country like Nigeria that likes titles, barrister, architect, maybe we should start calling you accountant, chartered accountant, Sheson Okwade.
Okay. Good morning, Benga. Good morning, Joe, and good morning to all our viewers. I think we just used that short acronym, CA. That is Chartered Accountant.
CA at the end of your name?
No, at the beginning. You know, we have the one at the end of our name. The same way lawyers, we put LLB and the likes. For us, we put FCA if you're a fellow, and ACA if you're an associate. But if you want to put the title, like you put doctor, barrister, so you can put CA too, at least.
Okay. Can we also put APC for you and PDP? Since you're an expert in analyzing their issues. But let's get straight to Al Jazeera newspaper. That's the first newspaper we'll be analyzing this morning. The headline says, Kano dismisses NGO's 2 million street children claim and threaten legal action. It's an interesting story I want us to get to in the course of this conversation. And the main headline is Electoral Act Amendment. There was a showdown in the National Assembly yesterday. I'm sure you've seen the results of that. Reps make U-turn and align with the Senate rescind bill that was passed in December, and there's been uproar over decision as opposition lawmakers stage a walkout. Sultan felicitates Muslims as Ramadan fasting begins, and Saudi Society hails Latif Okunu at 93. Ramadan, Zulum flags off palliatives for 300,000. And Pabio urges Muslims to pray for peace during fasting. WAEC rolls out digital certificate services and carries IFAD appointment. A pride for Nigeria, says Alia. But let's start with the big one. Electoral Amendment Act. What were your expectations yesterday, and were they met, or do you thought we were going to have the mandatory transmission of election results as demanded by protesters and a vast majority of Nigerians? They said it would give more credibility to the conduct of the elections and allow for transparency and more accountability, but the leadership of the Senate and the House of Representatives decided otherwise. And this is the democracy. The majority would always have their way.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm still asking myself, what was passed yesterday, that the result will be transmitted electronically, but there is going to be a backup manually, which we have. I was expecting that there will be condition attached to it, because for every electronic way of doing things, we must definitely look at a way to give the backup. to give conditions at which backup button can be, pressed to now say, okay, this is when we're having backup. How much have we been able to explore the activities of INEC? How prepared are they? How ready are they in making sure that all the necessary parameters to make sure that this is actually actualized is in place? We have several network service providers, and you cannot come up to say that all of them will fail at a particular time. Possibly it is high time you make sure that when every returning officer at the polling booth, you provide either a network that will move in strength of what you have in that locality and provide the necessary data at least to actualize this. Because what we're saying will not take forever. It's just for you, after collating everything, upload. So if one is not going, another one should be. So, and I know there are other service providers that you make use of that they select the best network in a particular location that can give rights to some of this. So this thing is as simple as every other
Joe
thing.
mentioned something where we were speaking earlier today, that the Minister of ICT and Digital Economy should also, that doesn't he have a say in this? Because it's also part of his KPIs.
Yeah.
Because if you've not developed the infrastructure of ICT, the backbone, to be better 4 years down the line or 3 years down the line after your appointment, why are you still minister?
Yeah,
if you can't defend. Yes.
You see, part of the problem that the National Assembly are not realizing as we speak is that they are actually giving themselves a scorecard that people are actually rating. Not only the minister alone. Because if after 3 years you are coming to tell us that we still don't have infrastructure that we can ride on to electronically transmit. We are not saying electronic voting, we are saying electronic transmission of the result, which implies that you would have concluded that particular election, everybody would have attested to it. All you are just doing at that point in time, like all of us will do, is to click on a particular button, attach the result, and upload for everybody to have access to. So I support your position of saying the Minister of ICT has a role. I'm sure you know the service provider came up to resent on what the National Assembly said, that they don't have infrastructure to actually make that work. Because also is a slap on their own deliverable.
Service provider. There's a clip that's been around now that was done in 2020 where Yakub Mohammed,
Mahmoud Yakubu.
had said that it's possible, because they asked him, is this impossible? He said, no, it's possible, that they've tested it in Nasarawa and it's very feasible. So why are we then hearing all of a sudden in 2026 that it's not possible?
So I think it's a way the politicians just want to have their way, if you ask me, to see how best they can explore what they know how to do best. But I will continue to say that let's give room to transparency. The trust gap between the governed and those that are governing us need to be closed up. And these are areas that we need to speak to in making sure that some of the yearnings, some of the expectations are met. If you transfer, because part of the things we've seen in time past is the result will definitely be assented to. A lot of people will sign. And while you are moving from where the polling booth to local government, you see creative artists, trying to draw and Tipex and do certain things, while you are going on the way. It doesn't cost you anything to, remove the so-called envelope and bring out the result and do what you are, because you claim. And that's why a lot of us have said, and this will go to the party agents and the people out there. Part of the trainings we have, as a accountant, is when there are alterations on a particular thing, you must attend your signature at that particular alteration. This is different from the general signature. Take, for example, below a particular document, you have to sign. But in between, there was a slight alteration. Possibly you are changing 0 to 9. If you have 5 signatories, and you observe that even when you give your checks to the bank, when you alter anything, they will reject that check if it is not signed. We are not saying you didn't sign the check, but the alteration must need to be validated by another signature. So when there are alterations, if there are no time for you to rewrite the result, then if you are 5, if you are 7, if you are 10, if you are 20, every one of you must attest to that alteration that was made, and that will validate what you actually are saying. But I feel that this can work. We may not have it 100%, and that's why I feel that the manual backup can actually be made available as a failover. But you must give condition at which you actually tap the button of saying we are resorting into the manual backup.
Evidence.
You know, evidence based to show. And this is where the Minister of ICT will play we must have things to monitor, you know, connectivities in area where you can actually show the strength. You know, like when you're talking of these providers high up there, they will tell you the strength of their network in that particular area. So we should be thinking of developing a device that can give us the strength of the service provider in areas of location.
I mean, when we're talking about that with election, imagine still on that same Al Jazeera front page, WAEC rolls out digital certificate services. So you see WAEC going forward, a whole INEC is talking about not having, like, what are the, look at
I mean, it's not even INEC that is saying it, it's the National Assembly that is doing INEC's work.
That we don't have the infrastructure. Please, let's quickly take a call. We have a call coming in from Delta State. Good morning. Thank you very much for calling.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Please go ahead, and if you can speak up a bit louder, Ebuka.
All right, fine. I want to speak on the Electoral Act that has been amended. Now, what problem are they solving right now? Because you make law to fill a gap. What exactly have they identified as the issue that this amendment has been able to solve? Because in the last election, the Supreme Court ruled that because the provision of mandatory transmission in which the former Senate or House said it is transferred, so they cannot, it's not justiciable. Now you are still coming back to it and said you have to provide what we call a loophole. Because the electoral empire will say, okay, there was no network. That's why we fall back to the manual. In any case, the major question here is this: let's compete without ability that the election result is transmitted. If the manual one, which is in ECHA, is mutilated, and the one in the IREF is presented, which of them is justiciable? Which of them will be used to admit in the court of law? Because as it is now, what they are, according to IREF, from what I heard, this IREF is just for the sake of gain. It's not collecting the results.
Okay.
So it makes no difference. At the end of the day, it is the manual one that will still count. Whatever happens to it, that is what they will use, and that is what they will present in the court of law.
All right.
So are you spending 240 billion just to entertain viewers, just to say, just for the sake of viewing?
All right, Ebuka, thank you very much for calling us this morning and sharing your thoughts. It was a bit of a struggle, but I was able to pick, a few things from what you said.
Olive, if you permit me, I think this issue of IREF has that functionality in which you can upload the result that is actually being validated. That was the one that Mahmoud, reacted to, that it was being attacked, and that's why they had to shut it down. But they should understand that a lot of people are out there in the space. There are queuing systems. You can upload a particular document. It may not be delivering at that particular time. It will queue up. Possibly you observe certain things. And as soon as you do that particular thing, those things will start dropping. It's like when you don't have network on your, they should create the offline in such a way that you can upload that particular document, even when you are not getting it on real time. In the next few minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, you have those documents. What we are saying is that we want a situation where results that is happening in one remote area, when it's uploaded, both those at the local government, at the state, at the INEC national office, are having access to the same results. Okay. Not that you are waiting for somebody
Professor.
One professor to now start rolling out. Every one of us, as we speak, when it comes to election, we are all professors. So we want a situation where that result that you have actually announced, every one of us, we can validate it that what you are actually uploading is what we are reading, and people can start their computation. Don't forget that most of these political parties too, they have their situation room where they compile some of these results. So when you have some of those things, as your people are actually validating those things, IRF should have that inbuilt where you upload those things, and we can. What we are seeking for is accountability, transparency, and bridging the gap of this trust deficit that we have among the population.
All right, let's receive a call from Abia State. Uche is calling. Good morning, Uche. Thank you for calling this morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Yeah, what played out yesterday was a shame. You see, some group of people, we are calling one political party, truly. We are not corrupted. Far away Canada. A court was calling
Unfortunately, Uche's call is in clear, so Uche, please try and call back if you can.
Yeah.
I'd like us to still...
anyway. We don't have enough time.
We don't have enough time,
yeah,
right? Let's move to leadership newspaper. At the top there, El-Rufai spends second day in EFCC's custody. What do you make of this family affair?
You said family affair. So when a family is staying back in his family house, for 2 days, there shouldn't be any problem.
But for the people of Kaduna State, taxpayers in Kaduna State, they won't call it a family affair because the billions of their money is said to be misappropriated. But then again, there's also talks about timing. If it's political, why is it coming now?
Yeah, a lot of us have actually been raising this idea of saying, EFCC, why do you have to wait for like 2, 3, 4,
for somebody to
years
fight with your guard before you activate?
Before you now activate. That's the undertone where a lot of people will tell you that it's witch hunting or not, and it create that bias to say, no, we are not actually fighting the cause which is actually there. If you have, is the problem. We don't even have a system. A lot of people before now, Benga, you attest with me, that most of the time when EFCC go after those people, they come back and apologize because we don't have that fact. There was a period where we have a former senator, and I think he's still serving. Tegoji Kalu was. A lot of people have been alleged to have misappropriated funds, and today they are still part of the political, weave that we have out there, and there is nothing that shows that incriminate them. And that's why a lot of people on a particular front, I was saying that this is just a movie in series that we just see the beginning. After a little while, there will be an handshake behind the scene. And then don't forget that a lot of people will tell you that all you just need to do is to align. Once you align, your sins will be forgiven and those things will just go on there. But we need to add, that's why a lot of people will tell you that Nigeria is not poor. Our major problem is the misappropriation of some of the funds that we have. We are blessed in such a way that every citizen can enjoy those God-given, resources the way it has been. While our forefathers were there, education was made available for free. Housing estates were actually there to make sure that people have access.
I mean, not our fathers. Forefathers
is too far.
Many generations, yes.
Our fathers. You have access to quality education, health facility, where you set up primary health center. People go out there in the localities that you're talking about. Okay, and I will attest to it, Benga, because I enjoyed free education. I didn't go to nursery school. It was a public school.
We can also attest to it by the amount of gray hair on your head.
Okay, let's go to the break. So we'll come back. We'll take a few more stories before we call it a wrap here on Breakfast Central. You're welcome back to Breakfast Central. We're still reviewing the papers with Orusha Sonkwade. We're on the front page of the leadership newspaper. Now you can see some stories on the front page here. ACF kicks his reps align with Senate on e-transmission manual backup. Amechi opposition leaders protest. Political deception, Wiki says. You can see him with the microphone on the pulpit saying that. Witness narrates how Owo Catholic Church terror attack was planned and executed. My goodness, I'm not even sure I want to know the details of that story. Pension fund assets rise by 4.94 trillion naira in 1 year. Bandits abduct 6 travelers on Naka Makurdi Road. Health Ministry enforces 8-year tenure, orders immediate retirement of directors. Wow. Ondo APC chair attacked at party meeting. Governor Aiyedatiwa denies sponsoring thugs. This is where we have come to as a nation, where they can actually be accusing the sitting governor, because it feels like there's a pattern where people expect that a party, the ruling party, will always not be in support of any opposition gathering whatsoever. Like we've seen, the attack on the ADC and ADC's criticism of the ruling party. Dangote demands National Forum on Power to rescue Nigeria's industries. El-Rufai spent second day in the FCC's custody, and Ramadan begins today, says Sultan. So happy celebration and fasting to our Muslim brothers.
Not only the Muslim, at least.
Yeah.
Lent season.
It's first time
Ash Wednesday was yesterday.
Today.
Well, so you're not.
Today is Wednesday.
Oh, you forgot. Oh, no wonder you were consuming meat pie and scotch egg during the break.
Wow, Wenga. I like how you always like to wash our dirty linen.
I don't understand.
And you don't tell the audience when you're
Let's go
cooking
to
bread.
Dangote. Dangote is demanding National Forum on Power. What's the power like in your area?
All power belongs to God.
Thank you very much. Because if the power is in the hands of men, this is the problem. Sincerely speaking, this is personal, and I think Mr. President needs to look critically into the activities of our minister. We seems to be majoring on minor and not giving the attention to what is actually
full
required.
attention. He wants to be governor of your state.
And the normal thing we usually have is at this point in time, you should have thrown in the towel and concentrate more in gubernatorial affair, in Oyo State, rather than actually activities is not going. And we all understand the strategic role of power to business growth and development in the nation. Just yesterday, I think in my area, the 33 line was out for more than 24 hours. And we're just in darkness. When I called the concerned people, and they are like, well, they are working on it. I think they restored it last night. So you can imagine
SMEs.
SME. So when you throw out 33, the number of 11 KVs that are out, you cannot even count the number. So several people are actually on blackout in my area, that particular area. And when you talked about 33B out, even the activities that were supposed to be carried out by my team were unable to be achieved. So you can see the impact of energy, power, and that's why to businesses.
Dangote is warning here. It says, if there's no power, the president should not expect any growth.
Yeah, you can't.
He's calling for a national forum on power.
But even the president understands this, and that's why he said, and that's why I'm still asking myself, if there is no power, don't vote me for second term. And you're still keeping somebody.
And as a good Christian and Muslim, you have to obey.
There is no power. Let them come out and justify that we have improved in the capacity.
Maybe before elections we'll solve it. But on a very serious note, why does it feel like we're sending a manned mission to the sun, an impossible task, just to have power? What is so bad about it? And this is not just about the APC administration. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo could not fix it. The PDP couldn't fix it in 16 years. So it's collective failure from all the governments since 1999. Why is it for something so important that will be the backbone of industrialization? Aso Rock has gone off grid. In March, they're going to launch their solar initiative. We have universities teaching hospitals.
What is the hope? I didn't want to go to that area, but you brought that up. Is to tell us that we should all prepare for darkness, because it's like those days when you see disco setting up generator in their office.
You know that they have no, it's true. Or you look at the budgets, and there's generator. It means you don't have any hope.
In a disco, You know that you guys should not prepare. So
there's a Latin maxim that says you cannot give what you
don't have. So
and then the tariffs are also expensive.
You should prioritize your core area. Then people will have hope. Now that the presidency, Aso Rock, is going off grid, and the excuse that I read was that it's quite expensive to be on national grid compared to having the alternative. And this is part of what a lot of us have been saying, that if Aso Rock is complaining of the cost, how much more businesses that we have out there where people are now, practically everybody is on band A, are we getting the commensurate hours that they promised to give to the people on band A? Every concentration is now on band A, so if you're on B, C, D, God help you where you belong to, even with that power. But it's quite disheartening that I think Mr. President should reiterate that part. I don't know the excuse they want to give. If you are going off grid, what is the hope of common man? Then every one of us should go off grid too and start patronizing alternative power supply.
We've gone off grid with bad roads by buying jeeps. We've gone off grid with lack of pipe-borne water by using boreholes.
Providing one.
We've gone off grid with security by providing our own security. So
now we are going off grid again by providing the alternative. I think it's something that Mr. President needs to critically look into. The Minister of Power has done his best, as far as I'm concerned. I picked it up by saying that is it the duty of Mr. Minister to come out and tell us that they want to start sharing meter? Meter is the primary responsibility of the disco. If you cannot provide what we use to account for the energy you are giving to me, then God help you.
It's like you're sharing buckets and there's no water.
Of course. So I see that. So when Mr. Minister was coming to say this meter is free, Disco is eating back and saying, we don't understand what you're actually saying.
Even though that meter is supposedly sponsored by
the World Bank.
World Bank should support us and provide funds to generate more. We need more generations to the Siemens do.
World Bank should support us because they are
if the money that you are giving to provision of these meters is used in area of generation, people are ready to buy their meter to account for what they have.
We have a call.
Let's take this call.
This is depressing.
Good morning to you, Okechukwu. Okechukwu, are you there?
Seems to you can't save two masters. It's distracted by its gubernatorial ambition. The other day it was in a battle with a prophet over the amount of trumpets they want to buy for rapture.
All right, I want to take comments from YouTube. Good morning to all our YouTube commenters. A special greeting to you, our virtual audience, particularly the ones who drop comments. Olumide Alade said, what transpired at the National Assembly yesterday reinforces the growing belief that Nigeria is governed not for the masses, but for a privileged circle of political elites. When leaders consistently impose their will without genuinely engaging the people, democracy begins to lose its meaning. A parliament should be the people's house, open in spirit and responsive in action. When citizens feel shut out, ignored or suppressed, it sends a troubling message about whose interest truly matters. Democracy cannot thrive where the voices of the people are treated as secondary. No better way to have put it, Olumide Alade. Brave Titan says, Oga, no, electronic only. We don't want 50 persons to sign, and then there's an expletive. They'll still manipulate it. Another expletive targeted at the banks too, criminal institutions, e-transmission real-time. See, as people are voting, it's being transmitted and counted, etc. They have claimed it exists. What is all this Ronaldo dribbling? The banks, you can maybe be sane with, but politics, no, the caller is right. Their guidelines calls mutilation and abomination. Story. The same people. Why the sudden amnesia? And then it says, it's better from the analysts. Mokunye Chukwemeka is calling you Benga. I'm not sure why. Benga, what did you say that Mokunye is calling your attention?
I also want to add, isn't it right now that the CSOs, maybe INEC should open an agreement with the CSOs where we did see Yaga during 2023, where they were also monitoring the elections, and they also complained about the situation room about the numbers not tallying and the challenges. Maybe for INEC to also boycott some of these challenges, don't you think they should partner with people like Yaga and so on to have another platform, a website where it can serve as a a second platform that also collates results, so that at the end of the day, we're not saying we wouldn't use INEC's final result, but it would be able to say, okay, fine, what are the differences? What did you get in total?
Yeah, there will always be that comparison. Every of these observers have their platform of reporting whatever they have. What will make this to be, much more easier than all this discussion we say is upload that, transmit that result, electronically. Let it, if you are complaining of network, you can kill those things. There are operations where you work offline, and as soon as the internet connectivity comes up, those things will, because at that point in time, you have actually boxed it up to an angle where what you have uploaded cannot be edited. It's already moving. All you need is just an active network, possibly a few kilometers from where you are. As you are just going, you get the internet, and the thing will just drop. That you can now use to make comparison. Whatever that is actually submitted at the polling booth, nobody needs to edit it. Nobody is actually coming to say they want to compute. All we just need is that those things, and with AI implementation now, some of those documents that you say can actually be screened, and you have those figures coming out, the way they've actually been written, and you can have the result faster than expected, both at the local government level, at the state level. You see, most of the time when we complain of this thing, we ask ourselves, small bits of people, institutions are carrying out election electronically. We are not asking for electronic voting now. We are seeing just transmitting, and we are discussing this. What will become of it when we talked about electronic voting? That means it will look as if something that can never happen for us as a nation. It's something that we must think through. If we can scale the order of transmitting this thing electronically, what we would have done is that you would have built up the confidence of the people to now say, now our vote can count. That's where you will see people,
the system.
People will now come out and say, I can vote, and come back and say, have we concluded the vote? Returning officer for this particular polling booth, can you, in the presence of everybody, upload the result for everybody to see? Then we can go. We know at that point in time, the document that you are carrying is just more or less a paper. The main result have actually been transmitted into the portal, and those at the local government state are already having it. They should have that mind that they must close the gap of this trust deficit that we have among the populace.
Because in closing that gap, we ensure that we reduce the incidence of voter apathy, and then we can move to other conversations like ensuring that there's electronic voting, where everybody doesn't, the whole country does not have to be at a standstill before election.
This one will not be 2027.
No, it won't be 2027, but like, we know that, okay, before 2027, we've knocked this one out, and then after that,
we'll be looking in that direction of electronic voting. Then you can now back up.
Then you can now go to start talking about diaspora voting, because there's so many areas that we need to...
Because electronic voting will assist us, so I can stay at the comfort of my home and vote for whosoever I feel like.
You have your BVN.
Is it right that when election is happening, there will be military personnel hovering around
we also, most
arena.
importantly, need to have Nigerians that are doing well. We need to reduce the poverty in the country, so vote buying will be reduced, and people won't be used as elements of disruptive. And they won't be used as thugs to disrupt elections.
The way you can curb the vote buying, let me tell you, during the Aula War, they will say something in our local dialect. Orino mi or mi demoni mowa. As in, you cannot see what I have within me. So if we migrate to what Olive just said, electronic voting, you can decide to give me money. Maybe I'll vote in my house, and nobody knows the API or the thing. So you can give out the money. The voting lies with us on what we have
on Judgment Day.
On Judgment Day. Leave that one
you
for the
account
Judgment
for that
Day.
5,000 naira.
The account,
thank you so much.
You give room for the account. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you to our guests who joined us in Ibehe, who joined us earlier, Mr. Jide Kofo, all our virtual guests, as well as our virtual audience, particularly, again, those who drop comments. Thank you for joining us. As we wrap up, we want to say thank you and join us again same time tomorrow. I also want to give a shout out to Ezine Ebogu, a lawyer par excellence. And my friend, I wish you a wonderful, wonderful year. We'll be back again tomorrow. Have a wonderful rest of the day. It's over to Jasiri. Bye-bye.
Happy birthday, Ezine. Can't wait for you to be a son.